Once upon a time in the bustling city of Astor, there lived two close friends, Elena and Chris. Both were passionate about their dreams, and both were equally talented. Elena dreamed of becoming a world-renowned architect, while Chris wanted to launch his own tech startup. They had big plans, and they were ready to work for them, or so they thought. They each started their journey around the same time. Elena rented a small office space, sketching designs late into the night. But soon, she faced her first challenge. A major project she was counting on fell through. The client backed out at the last minute, leaving her with nothing but dashed hopes and an empty bank account. Chris, on the other hand, had begun coding for his startup idea. But the software kept crashing. No matter how hard he tried to debug it, things only got worse. His investors were getting nervous, and Chris himself began to doubt whether he could ever pull it off. One evening, as they sat together at their favorite cafe, both friends vented their frustrations.
I don't think I can do this anymore, Chris. I'm not cut out for this kind of failure. Maybe I should go back to working for someone else.
Also, Chris, nodding his head, said,
I feel the same way. I thought starting my own company would be exciting, but it's been nothing but problems. Every time I think I'm making progress, something else goes wrong.
They sat in silence for a few moments, sipping their coffee and staring at the rain pouring outside the window. As they sat there, an old mentor of theirs, Mr. Larson, happened to walk in. He had been their high school teacher, someone they both admired. Seeing their defeated expressions, he approached them with a warm smile. Mr. Larson broke their silence. They were surprised to meet him after a very long time.
Mind if I join you two for a bit?
They nodded, grateful for the distraction. After a few minutes of exchanging pleasantries and small talk, Mr. Larson said,
You two seem to be carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. What's going on?
Elena and Chris exchanged glances, then poured out their struggles. Mr. Larson listened carefully, nodding every now and then.
You know, it's funny. I've seen this same scenario play out with some of the most successful people I know. Do you know the difference between those who make it and those who don't?
Chris replied.
Talent, hard work.
Mr. Larson, smiling, said,
Those things help, but no. The biggest difference is mindset. Let me tell you a story.
Mr. Larson leaned in, his voice steady but full of passion.
Years ago, I had two students just like you. Both wanted to start their own businesses. The first student, Jake, was brilliant, top of the class, naturally gifted. The second, Maya, was talented too, but she had a different strength. She believed every failure was a stepping stone to something better. Jake started his business with a bang. He got funding right away, his product was innovative, and things seemed to be going well. But then he hit a snag. His biggest investor pulled out, and instead of pushing through, Jake got discouraged. He thought, maybe I'm not cut out for this, so he quit. Maya, she struggled from day one. Her business was slow to take off, and she faced failure after failure. But every time she hit a roadblock, she saw it as a learning opportunity. She believed in herself and her vision, and eventually her persistence paid off. Her business became one of the most successful in the country. Now tell me, what do you think was the real difference between them?
Elena, thinking, quickly replied this time.
Jake gave up when things got tough, but Maya didn't. She believed she could succeed.
Mr. Larson explained further.
Exactly, it wasn't about how many times they failed. It was about how they viewed failure. Maya had a growth mindset. She saw every setback as temporary, something to learn from, not a reflection of her abilities. Jake had a fixed mindset. He believed that if things didn't work out immediately, it meant he wasn't good enough.
Elena and Chris sat quietly for a moment, absorbing the story. Chris spoke in with a realization gesture.
So you're saying we need to change how we think about failure?
Exactly, your challenges aren't roadblocks, they're lessons. If you shift your mindset, you'll stay focused and keep moving forward. It's not about avoiding failure, it's about how you respond to it.
With renewed determination, Elena and Chris said aloud.
I think I've been looking at this all wrong. I was so focused on what went wrong, I forgot to focus on what I could learn from it.
Me too. I've been letting these setbacks convince me I'm not cut out for this. But maybe they're just part of the process.
That's the spirit. Remember, the only real failure is giving up. Everything else is just part of the journey.
A few months later, Elena stood in front of her newly completed building project, a proud smile on her face. It hadn't been easy. There were more setbacks along the way, but every time something went wrong, she reminded herself of Maya's story and kept pushing forward. At the same time, Chris was preparing to launch his startup's product. The software was finally ready, and though it had taken longer than expected, he had learned so much from the challenges he faced. He knew now that his mindset had been the key to staying focused. One evening, they met up again at their favorite cafe.
Can you believe how far we've come?
Ha ha ha, it feels like a lifetime ago when we almost gave up. I guess Mr. Larson was right, it really was all in our heads.
Yeah, our mindset changed everything.
In the end, Elena and Chris learned that the most powerful tool for achieving their dreams wasn't talent or luck, it was their belief in themselves. And with the right mindset, they could conquer anything.